Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's February 5th, 2025, and we've got some big weather headed our way that you need to be aware of. There's an ice storm brewing in the Ohio Valley and parts of the mid-Atlantic, and it's going to cause some major headaches for a lot of people over the next couple of days. But that's not all. Along with that, we've got some severe weather making its way into the mid-South, and there's even a chance of some isolated tornadoes in areas that don't typically see them in February. So there's a lot to cover today, and I'm here to break it all down for you. Let's get into it. A big feature we're tracking right now is the jet stream, which is really setting the stage for a lot of what's going to happen over the next few days. This powerful air current, which is always shifting and driving weather patterns, is currently stretched across the United States. Jet stream is bringing in an atmospheric river from the Pacific Northwest, which is pushing a huge amount of moisture into the western U.S. and up against the mountain ranges, like the Cascades and the Sierra Nevadas. This is leading to a whole host of weather issues, including heavy snow and flash floods. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. In the West, winter storm warnings are in effect across parts of Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and California. We're expecting a lot of snow in the Sierra Nevada, which will be problematic for anyone traveling through the mountain passes. Meanwhile, the valleys beneath these mountains are getting hit with a lot of rain, and that brings an increased risk of flash floods. Mudslides and landslides are also a concern because of all that rain. The moisture from the Pacific is coming in fast, and it's going to continue to cause disruptions throughout the West for the next couple of days. But the story doesn't end there. All that energy and moisture that's being carried by the jet stream is going to push eastward, and this is where things are going to get really interesting. The eastern United States is going to feel the effects as the storm system moves over the Midwest and the Ohio Valley and eventually into the mid-Atlantic. We're looking at a couple of days of unsettled weather, especially from Wednesday into Thursday. Before all that happens, there's something smaller we need to watch for: a shortwave trough. This is a smaller system that sits within the larger flow of the jet stream, and it's going to cause some trouble over the next 48 hours. It's like a little dip in the atmosphere, and these short waves often create some interesting weather patterns. In this case, it's going to be the culprit for the ice storm and freezing rain we're expecting in parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Mid-Atlantic. We've been dealing with a warm spell lately. Just this morning, I looked at the thermometer here in eastern Kentucky, and it was already up to 60 def, which is pretty wild for February. The warmer temperatures have been sticking around for a little while now, but the cold air is about to make a comeback. We've got this pocket of cold air trapped over the Appalachian Mountains, and when the warm, moist air from the south runs into it, we're going to get some really interesting weather dynamics. That warm air trying to push northward is going to meet that stubborn cold air stuck in the mountains, and that's where things are going to get tricky. This battle between the warm and cold air is exactly what sets up the conditions for a significant icing event, especially for places like Virginia, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. The result is going to be freezing rain and sleet, which will create hazardous travel conditions. Even though the temperatures might seem mild in some areas, we're going to see ice accumulate on roads and power lines, making travel dangerous. By Wednesday evening and into Thursday morning, places like Chicago, Indianapolis, and Columbus, Ohio will likely experience a glaze of ice. It won't be enough to bring down trees or cause power outages just yet, but it'll definitely make the roads slippery and dangerous. This is the kind of ice that can sneak up on you. So even if the ground looks fine, you've got to be extra cautious on bridges, overpasses, and elevated surfaces, which will freeze up much quicker. As we get into Thursday morning, the freezing rain is going to spread to areas like Pittsburgh, Hagerstown, and northern Virginia. This is when we could see the heaviest icing, and it's going to create serious travel problems. We're looking at potentially a quarter to half an inch of ice accumulation in some areas, and that's enough to cause power outages, slick roads, and other disruptions. If you live in the Appalachian region, particularly in the higher elevations, you're going to see a lot of ice. This could lead to power outages, tree damage, and hazardous travel conditions. So what can you expect if you're in the pink zone on the ice maps? If you're in these areas like parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Northern Virginia, you should be prepared for at least a glaze of ice, which can make everything from driving to walking treacherous. Black ice is going to be a big concern, especially on bridges and overpasses, so be careful if you're out on the roads. In the darker pink areas, we're talking about more significant ice accumulation, up to half an inch in some places, and that's where the most dangerous conditions are likely to occur. Make sure you've got a plan for staying safe, especially on Thursday morning as the system rolls through. But we're not just looking at ice and snow this week. There's also a risk for severe weather. That's right, on February 5th, we've got a marginal risk of severe storms stretching from Mississippi all the way up through middle Tennessee and into southern Kentucky. There's a 2 in chance of tornadoes in this area, which, as you can imagine, is pretty unusual for early February. It's not a huge risk, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on, especially if you live in places like Nashville, Bowling Green, and Memphis. There's a very small chance that some of the storms could start rotating, and that means we might see a tornado or two. As we move into Wednesday afternoon and evening, the instability from the jet stream is going to bring some thunderstorms to the region. These storms are going to be pretty weak to start with, but they could intensify as they move eastward. By the time we get into the evening, there's a chance that some of these storms could produce small hail, gusty winds, and maybe even a tornado. If you're in areas like Howell Rogers Parkway, Bowling Green, Nashville, or Memphis, keep an eye on the sky and stay informed. The risk of tornadoes is small, but it's definitely something to be prepared for, and these storms could move in fast. As we look at the atmosphere, we can see that there's some rotation, which means there's a chance of those storms spinning up. Again, it's not looking like a major tornado outbreak, but it's something to watch closely. On the West Coast, though, things are a different story. There are these atmospheric river events that continue to pour rain and snow across the region. In California, especially in the Sierra Nevada, we're looking at a ton of snow. Around 100 to 150 inches are expected over the next few days. And it's not just snow in the mountains. We're seeing a lot of rain as well. This has been a very snowy season, and more is on the way. By tomorrow, we're expecting this system to develop into a full-blown winter storm that'll impact the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Northeast. This is just the beginning of what looks like a long chain of winter storms that are going to hit the U.S. over the next couple of weeks. Now, let's dive into these winter storms a bit more. Over the next few days, we're expecting pretty dry conditions east of the Rockies, while the West Coast will continue to get hit with snow and rain from that atmospheric river. But by Wednesday morning, that system is going to start moving east. We're expecting freezing rain and snow to develop over northern Missouri, western Illinois, and Iowa. This could bring some significant ice accumulation, which is going to create very dangerous road conditions across several states. By Wednesday night into Thursday, freezing rain is expected to spread over northern Indiana, northern Ohio, and parts of the Ohio Valley. The ice could get pretty heavy at times, and this could lead to power outages. If you have friends or family in these areas, make sure they're prepared because this is going to be a serious storm, especially when it comes to the ice accumulation. Then, as we move into Thursday, that freezing rain will start to move into the Northeast, with snow mostly affecting the upper Midwest. But New England is going to see a widespread 3 to 6 inches of snow. And right after that, freezing rain will move in, turning into rain in southern New England. So while snow is the main concern in the upper Midwest and New England, there's going to be a messy transition to freezing rain and then rain, making for some really treacherous conditions across the Northeast. This storm will eventually clear out by Friday morning, but that's not the end of it. We've got another storm on the horizon. As we head into Saturday and Sunday, we're going to see a second winter storm that's going to hit much of the same areas. This storm is likely to bring more snow to the upper Midwest and more freezing rain to places like Pennsylvania, southern New York, and Maryland. It's going to be pretty similar to the first storm in terms of track and intensity, though there are some differences in the details. By Sunday morning, we'll still be seeing snow in New England before the storm moves out. So it's definitely going to be a busy weekend for those areas with snow and ice. But that's not all. As we move into mid-February, the real kicker is going to be the Arctic blast that's expected to come sweeping down from Canada. The European model is suggesting that the worst of it will hit the Northeast, so if you're in that area, get ready for more snow and extreme cold. February is always a month that brings big winter storms, and I think we're definitely going to see at least one, if not two, major snow events over the next few weeks. I'll be keeping a close eye on this as we get closer to mid-February. In addition to all the snow and ice, we're going to see some pretty serious ice accumulation from the storm happening Wednesday into Thursday. Some areas are expected to see up to a quarter inch of ice, with spots like central Pennsylvania possibly getting up to half an inch. This could lead to significant power outages, so it's important to stay alert, especially in the darker purple areas where the ice accumulation could be the heaviest. This ice storm is shaping up to be pretty significant, particularly in the Northeast. As for the second storm, which is expected to roll in Saturday into Sunday, it's likely to bring even more snow to the upper Midwest, with New England possibly getting another 3 to 6 inches. And that second storm might actually be the more significant one when it comes to snowfall. It's still a little early to get into the exact numbers, but it's definitely one to watch, especially if you're in the Northeast or upper Midwest. You might be wondering if we're going to see more snow over the next few weeks. Well, the European models are showing a high probability of snowfall in the northeast, and it looks like we're going to see some significant snow across the region. While there's still some uncertainty about the exact locations, I'd say it's pretty likely we'll see at least one, if not two, big snow events in the coming weeks. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about temperatures. We've got a crazy heat wave in the southern plains and southeast that's going to push temperatures well above average. Places that are usually in the 50s this time of year, like Texas, are going to see highs in the upper 70s. That's right, shorts and t-shirts weather in January. It's going to be especially warm on Thursday with record-breaking highs expected across the southeast and deep south. This heat is going to stick around through the weekend, but by early next week, it'll start to cool down, and we'll be watching for an Arctic blast that could bring much colder air to the Midwest and Great Plains. As we look at the next few days, it's clear that temperatures are going to continue breaking records. Today, many areas in the southeast are already seeing record high temperatures, and tomorrow, the deep south and southern plains will join in. Thursday is shaping up to be the warmest day of the week, with lots of places breaking records. By Friday, the heat will shift to Florida, and by Saturday, it'll continue to stretch through the southeast. So if you're in the southeast or southern plains, be ready for some unusually warm temperatures. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope this helps you stay prepared for the crazy weather ahead. Make sure you hit the like button if you found this video helpful, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Stay safe, stay warm, stay tuned, because we're in for a busy few weeks of weather.